I'd like to call to order the Planning Commission meeting for Wednesday, January 28th, 2026. Lydia, call roll, please.
Of course. Chair Westerland,
Here.
Vice Chair Dillard Rousseau, Secretary Copeland,
Here.
Mr. Campbell, Miss Erickson, Miss Harper,
Here.
Mr. Lucas, Mr. Ross,
Here.
and Mr. Truss.
Here.
Wonderful.
Fantastic. However, we have a few that are missing, so I would need a motion to excuse the absentees. And that's Jeff, and Robin. How's that? So I'm looking for a motion?
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion, if I may.
Sure.
I'll make a motion to excuse the absence of Ms. Dillard Rousseau, Mr. Lucas, and Mr. Campbell from tonight's meeting.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Fantastic. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, before us, we have an agenda. If it all looks in order, I'd be inclined to receive a motion for approval of the agenda.
Mr. Chair, motion
Yes.
to approve the agenda?
Fantastic. Do I have a second?
I'll second as well.
All right, great. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, next item, approval of the minutes from the November 19th, 2025 Planning Commission meeting. And I had a few comments. I don't know if anybody else did. Okay, I'll start with mine. So I'm looking at the minutes on page 1, new business item A, Planning Commission case for the sign permit at 13 Mile Road for Dollface. The request reads, obtain approval to modify existing monument sign. And obtain recommendation for a proposed wall sign modification. So I think that needs to be changed to omit the modifications to the monument sign. And that it was to obtain approval, not a recommendation for a proposed wall sign.
Thank you, that's a good catch, I remember, I caught that earlier in a different portion of that, so when we got changed for the new wall sign.
I also had something on page 2. And this is the architect in me. So for, it's on page 2, PC case for the sign permit for Southfield, and should that be A? It might be PC case B, that right?
Oh, that should be B.
Just noticed that, but the first paragraph, and the last 3 words says textured brick face. It's actually split face block.
That is very architectural.
Yeah, I've told you. And then going down to the 3rd paragraph, the first sentence, soldier course brick, again, it's block. It's not a soldier course, it's just textured block. And then at the bottom, last 2 lines. Erickson observed that she had personally experienced visibility issues. Oh, never mind. The last one, that the applicant confirmed that the revised location would eliminate the need of standoffs and improve clarity. I believe he still is installing standoffs that there's pegs into the masonry. It's not going to be adhered to it, if I recall correctly. Because otherwise, they have to screw into the
Yeah,
material, and it was the standoffs that were creating, they had to be longer in order to create the shadow. But it still needs to have a standoff in order to affix the sign to the building.
we'll go back and listen to the minutes to it, or the meeting recording.
So those are my comments that I noticed. Again, sorry for being the architect in the group.
We'll forgive you this time.
So if anybody agrees with me on that, I'd look for a motion with those revisions to the minutes from the November 19th Planning Commission meeting.
With the revisions and amendments to the meeting minutes, I make a motion to approve the meeting minutes from November 19th of 2025.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Fantastic. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, number 5, moving right along. Public comments on the items not on the published agenda. Is there anybody here from the public wishing to speak on something that's not on the agenda? See none, we'll move right along. Old business. Do we have anything under old business? Doesn't look like it. So we'll keep moving to the new business on item number 7. Sign permit for Harmony Village, 18200 West 13 Mile Road. Suzie, would you like to give us a little information on this one?
Yeah, so our first case of the evening is actually right down the road. It is a sign face change for, now known as Harmony Village. This was Mission Point. This is a nursing home facility. It's changed ownership recently, or ownership management, and so they're just looking to ensure that their signage out there is correctly identifies who they are now. So this sign was, they're not intending to change the structure at all. It was really truly just a face change, which you see here before you. As Brian's noted in his letter, it conforms to our standard. It's 30 square feet, ground monument. There is no illumination, or they do not intend to illuminate it. It does have 2 shades of the blue text and the green and brown logo. There is some discretion for the planning commission to allow multicolor corporate logos. You may want to discuss with the applicant, which we do have a representative of Harmony Village with us here tonight, but discuss the 200 square feet of ground cover of landscaping. I know they have something, but it's really, quite honestly, hard to discern right now because it's buried under several inches of snow. So I'll have Darius come, why don't you come on up to the podium, and he can answer any questions you may have about Harmony Village. But Brian, do you have anything that I didn't say?
Susie pretty much covered it all, Mr. Chair. The only item in terms of compliance with sign ordinance standards was the coloring, and commission does have the discretion to allow additional colors for a company logo. Essentially, that's what you're presented with. We have the blue of the text, and then we have the brown and green of the logo. So you have the discretion to allow that, even though it would conventionally exceed the 3-color limitation. That's really all I have. I would just add, I guess, too, there were a few discrepancies in the application form, which I think was included in your packet. Susie has been working with the petitioner to get that corrected as well. It really doesn't impact your decision-making this evening, but one of those things, we want consistency for the file for any future references that may be needed for exactly what was requested and ultimately what was approved.
Appreciate that, thank you. So the applicant's here. Is there anything you'd like to share with us before we offer up any questions? Is there any explanation or description you want to give us other than what Susie and Brian provided? Please give us your name.
Yeah, I was going to say, first I'll introduce myself. My name is Darius Parks. I'm the administrator for Harmony Village of Beverly Hills. What I can say is that the old company, this company was recently purchased by Certus. They're based in Ohio. So this would be, they purchased 4 buildings here, so typically they just want to continue their brand in here. That's basically what the CEO point was saying. I believe they own 16 nursing homes down in Ohio. So they're, basically it's a new market for them. They just want the consistency across the market from that perspective. Yeah, we don't plan on illuminating the signage or anything like that. We just plan on replacing the vinyl, and yeah.
Appreciate that, thank you.
Yeah.
I'll bring it back to the commission. Are there any questions of the applicant, Susie or Brian, regarding this application? Or this, for the sign? And then I'd be open for any discussion regarding the 3 colors. Or more than 3 colors, I apologize. I guess I'll start off with, just from the application standpoint, I know that Brian had identified the size, so not only the square footage, but also the lineal dimensions, the 8 foot and the 4 foot, and the duplicate sign information. But also, I noticed that the lighting type in the application also says LED internally illuminated. So as long as that's clarified in the application, I just point that out, Susie, more or less from that application process, if we move forward with a favorable result. Any thoughts on,
Are we saying this is more than 3 colors?
it's because of white, the white background is considered the color of the sign, right?
Well, no, it's actually under the ordinance, it's the shades of blue.
The 2 shades of blue?
Yeah, plus then a brown and green logo.
Looks like the same as the dark blue to me.
No, the branch is the brown.
Oh, okay.
Brown, black, or whatever, can't tell for sure. Depends on your computer.
Still looks the same to me.
Technically,
You got the green and,
Right, if you
it
include
looks
the
like,
white,
the
it's
brown and the
5.
dark blues look the same to me.
With an all white or all black background, that does not count as a sign color under the
Okay.
ordinance.
Maybe I'm colorblind.
So the new sign seems attractive. I'm curious, is this something in the ordinance about the colors of a sign that come up often? Do we have a lot of signs that are more than, there's just a request like this comes up fairly?
So it's part of the ordinance, so then when we approve signs, we limit the colors to what the ordinance stipulates. So we don't have a lot of signs with multiple colors,
Yeah, yeah.
because we've followed the sign ordinance. In the past, I mean, one of our big moves we had a few years ago was what we call the Plaza at Brady's, that had the monument sign out front, which every business had their individual coloration, and then as that was renovated, we were able to get that restricted down to all having the same background color and reduce the chaos of all the different colors. So we've strived well to kind of consolidate the number of colors to create the busyness of signs.
I watched that from the street over the years. It does look a lot tidier. This property seems like it's set back, it's more on its own, and the changes seem attractive to me, so.
I mean, from a color standpoint, in my opinion, that the branch is so minimal to the sign, so it's not, in my opinion, obtrusive. And to Charlie's point, from a distance, you almost look like it could be read as the same color, or very similar, and it's such a small amount that it's not disturbing to me. And we have that ability to make that part of our motion. Any other questions of Brian, Susie, or the applicant? Otherwise, I'd be entertaining a motion.
I'd like to make a motion. I do have one question about the interior lighting. Should we put that in the motion, or is it, it's,
If you
It's in
like,
the-
but
it's
I
in the
would,
proposal.
I mean, because there's a discrepancy
Yeah.
in the application and then what we have before us and what we've heard, I think it's prudent to actually include that in the motion.
so the addition would be that it would not be lighted,
No illumination.
interior illumination, right? It would not be illuminated, okay. I'd like to make a motion to approve the sign permit application for PC case 260101, Harmony Village, located 18200 West Mile Road, for a phase change to existing monument sign, allowing for the color scheme as proposed, and that the sign will not be illuminated as per the proposed proposal. Yeah.
Okay, I have a motion by Andrew. Do I have a second?
I'll second Andrew's motion.
You're on a roll, man. All in favor, right? I don't need a roll call for this, so all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Awesome, we're all set. I will follow up with you tomorrow.
All right, thank you, I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Have a great night.
Good luck, thank you. Good luck for the business, too.
Oh, thanks, I appreciate it, guys. Have a good one.
All right, item 7B, special land use and site plan review for Detroit Country Day School.
All right.
Suzie, do you want to read us in on this one, please?
Yeah, all right. So I think I had alluded to that you were going to be seeing representatives from Detroit Country Day again really soon, towards the end of last year. And so we have tonight, they've got their special land use and site plan approval for improvements to their athletic complex. And just to kind of give us a frame of reference, what we're talking about here is the football field and track, all right? We're talking about, and I've got obviously other images and representatives here that will have prettier pictures than I have, right? They're talking about making this is really an access road, and we kind of saw this in, when we were looking at the recent pictures for the playground, we kind of saw the access road as it continues down, off screen here, really changing the feel of this to be far more pedestrian oriented and more of a campus feel. They have some improvements that they would like to make over here. Installing new bleachers and making some ADA changes to, this is the concession stand, locker rooms, bathrooms. So making some ADA improvements to this site. So it's really contained here. This kind of gives you a better breakdown of the extent of this particular one. So 2 is actually phase 1, okay? Phase 2, which is labeled 1, that will be coming to us at a later date, and that is really to improve the traffic flow at the front of the school. But for tonight's discussion, we're going to talk about Area 2. Like I said, we've got some making some improvements, some real physical improvements over here in this plaza. And with the new bleachers, there's going to be some sunshades, if you will, pavilion shades, more plaza, right? Back up. And as you can see in this dotted area here, this goes through here. Those are the pedestrian walkway improvements, really flowing on down, ramp, new staircases, improving this area. And then closer, this would be an alumni gathering area that they're looking to construct. And again, that walkable pedestrian feel with those improvements to the access way. The track itself, the track and field, so the track will be replaced. The field will be replaced. There is new lighting being proposed for the field. And then they are also proposing to move the scoreboard, move and enlarge the scoreboard. So right now, the scoreboard is off over here. Okay, if any of you are.
That's on the west end, right?
Yes, yes. So it's over here. They are proposing to move the kitty corner across the field right over here. Okay. As we know, all special land uses, we've got to review them each and every time. So this is broadly the scope of what they're talking about. I'll leave it right here for a minute, and I'm going to have Rich Hodak. Hodak, all right, Hodak. I've said it like 1,000 times before, but, all right, so I'm going to have Rich, he's their architect. He is going to walk you through their presentation and really give you a better feel for what they're doing. Voila. Scrolling up and down.
I'll just test this here. Okay, great. Good evening. Thank you very much for allowing us to be here tonight. We're excited. This has been a process that's been going on for some months now as we prepare to get to this day here. So my name is Richard Hodek. I'm with the firm Grissom Metz Andrews. We're landscape architects. We're located in Plymouth, Michigan. And these are one of our most exciting projects that we're working on right now. So I'm excited to present this to you. So we were contacted by Detroit Country Day in that they were looking at already in the process of updating their current, and Susie's kind of reiterate some of the things that she's mentioned, but re-update their existing athletic football field and track and some of the lighting and scoreboard. And as they were starting to develop that, they felt that this was also a more opportune time was to start really looking at this complex, at this area, as opposed to just a football field, was to make it a much more of an athletic complex, to give it a sense of arrival, a sense of pride for the school. Everyone's very well familiar with the Detroit Country Day, what they offer, and their level of expertise in many, many things. So if you can kind of follow my cursor again, scope of the areas around the track, around the concessions building, up to about a zone into here from what we call the fire lane, and back up to a point around here coming off of the entrance drive here. So this gives you a little bit of context relative to the upper terrace. For the most part, I'm going to go back, is that, we're not changing anything on the track in the way of any elevations. The asphalt track itself will remain. So what they're going to do is they're going to come into the track, remove the polyurethane coating, reapply a new coating onto there, as well as the long jump and the high jump areas. They're going to pull up the existing synthetic turf football field, relay a new carpet down over that, and then I don't know if I can't scroll in at this.
All right.
Oh, that's all right. That's okay.
You can scroll in right now.
Okay, I
It's like
thought maybe just give it a little bit more. So just
partner
kind of
deal on this one.
So again, and I wanted to talk a little bit about it because I think it's helpful to have this understanding of, as we're looking at the existing conditions. So the scoreboard is located down here at the westerly end. So one of the things that I think that needs to be mentioned is that the graphics, right, visually are somewhat visible if you were to look from the 13-mile road here, and maybe potentially from any light trespass that comes through this area here out back to the scoreboard in this location. Sound dissipation is also heading in is heading in an easterly direction across the field, and so there really isn't any type of a large mass of vegetation like we have along this kind of the northeasterly and easterly side of the property. So we have sound emanating out in these locations here. And one of the things that is upgrading this scoreboard, they've been having some difficulties in the operation. They've been making repairs, it's getting costly. And this was, I think the scoreboard I recall was installed back in 2011. So they're wanting to, at this point, upgrade it and move it over to the northeast portion of the site, where there it's going to have more of a focus back to the stands from an observational standpoint, as opposed to everyone kind of cranking their head over to the left side and trying to see what's going on. They'll have a little bit more of a direct view straight on to the to the area here. Also, is that now that we have that location set, this entire wooded area here becomes a buffer. So you're not seeing any of the graphics from 13 Mile or Lasser, because it's all, the graphics are to your back, or it's to the backside of you as you drive around this area here. Also, all the sound is also is going to be focused inward towards the bleachers. And so we should be helping this reducing any of the decibel levels. There's 4 current light poles that are out on the site here now. I think they're approximately, Jason, maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, they're 60, 65 feet or so tall. And they have an existing lighting system that's been there since around 1989, 1990. So what they're looking at doing is to upgrade to the current technology, which are LEDs, and these are highly, highly controllable. So as opposed to a light that just blares out in any direction, LED lighting is controlled by pixels of light, and every pixel is focused and adjusted in a very concentrated format, so that light can be placed directly onto this field, and your cutoff from dark areas is very much controlled, and you really reduce the amount of lighting. So this is again, we're talking 30 years or so of lighting advancement that's occurring here. So from a lighting standpoint, that's going to be a huge improvement for them itself. The bleachers, they're currently having I think there's some grading issues that they've been having, some settlement issues. So the bleachers are going to be completely removed, and new wall and new ADA access ramp down to the track will be added in as a part of that. If you want to scroll that out a little bit, Susie. I can
All
kinda-
right,
All right.
scroll away.
Thank you. Whoops.
Just
Nope.
pick your slide.
I'll go back to this one here. So, just kind of give you a little bit of context, though, is for the upper terrace area that we're mentioning. Currently, it's an asphalt driveway, curb conditions here, precast concrete pavers that have probably been in for about 25 years, and has a very vehicular look. This is how all of the people coming from the school enter into the athletic complex. No sense of arrival, really just kind of you're walking down a driveway. As you come from heading west to east, now you're looking back, this is looking back to the west. You can kind of see the scoreboard over here on the far west end. Again, going from asphalt, it does start to pick up into this plaza area here, which is around the existing press box area, and those will be all upgraded. There's an existing retaining wall that is here that retains, kind of holds up the baseball field that's here to the south side. And as we continue to move further down towards the concessions building, what you start to see here is there's a major, major grade change that we have going on. So this road dips down, it's about 3.5 or 4 feet that it rolls down and then rolls back up. So vehicular traffic, anyone that's driving around there, it actually is not a safe condition, especially for any vehicle that's in there. And the terrace currently, right now, there's a kind of a significant slope, not ADA compliant. So we're looking to make improvements to that. Here's some kind of reference imagery of where we're going with this. So one of the things that we looked at was that the school already has an architectural vernacular that's really consistent. Their administration's building, their science building, the theater area that all kind of are at that main drop-off all have the same consistent architecture. So there's a green metal standing seam roof. They've got brick, limestone accents. And then the windows, you can see is that there's this kind of this square pattern that picks up through the windows. So one of the things that we wanted to do was to bring that through as we develop this into the same architecture so that everything's consistent and coherent all the way through and it looks like a cohesive campus. And we're really kind of elevating this from really is this, Detroit Country Day is not only just a high school, it's a college prep, right? They have your higher advancement classes, and so we're wanting to elevate the look of this entire campus to that level of like a college campus. So again, creating a sense of arrival as you come into the site here, kind of of nature into here, creating colonnades, masonry columns that will have lighting that comes down and lights up the pathways, that will have some banner that would be on each of these columns. We'll show you those graphics. Bringing in concrete and clay brick paving. So one of the things that we have to deal with is that this is a fire lane. So we have to maintain always the structural integrity for the fire trucks, as well as an open avenue. So that will be maintained. So we're looking at, this will be a heavily reinforced concrete and then brick accents. And so this kind of the patterning starts to pick up on those square patterns from the window mullions here. Landscaping, so we're going to start, again, reinforcing the kind of the pathway as you come into the plaza walkway here with some evergreen or deciduous materials, shade trees that give scale and shading. And then also we felt was that it'd be kind of fun and have kind of an Instagram moment. And so a lot of college campuses you see, you'll have their logo or such placed at some point. So this is kind of where students, alumni can kind of gather around. So this would be a kind of a large, that's about a 12-foot by 13-foot aluminum DCD sign that would be out there. So we'll show you those here. So again, here's the new plan. Again, updated graphics, synthetic turf field, new track surfacing, scoreboard. This shows it on the inside, but it is actually, there are other plans will show it. It's located up in this area here. Updated in new bleachers with a ramp that will come down to the track elevation here. Really, at this point here starts the entrance in off of this existing drop-off. So you'll see the gateway here. I'll walk you through the pathway. Just for context, this is the location here where the logo kind of sculpture element will be located. When we got to, as you come down this walkway, what we decided was that when you get to this spectator zone, we felt that we needed to elevate the kind of the level of the look in here. So what we're seeing here is that we're taking one of the brick colors that would be part of this concrete pathway and use it as an accent, and then also have another complementary brick. So it'll all be clay brick paving. And the reason we're going with clay brick is because it's a much stronger material over concrete, and the color and the richness of it will last far longer than a precast concrete paver, which will tend to wear out over time. And as you come out of the plaza area, as Susie had mentioned, I'll show you here, there's an ADA compliant ramp, new staircase, upgraded paving again down around the concessions building, and then we tie back in and we'll be upgrading and raising this grade around the asphalt drive back to this location. In doing so, we're going to need to build a retaining wall and staircase around here to hold that grade up. So we have some additional landscaping that's going to help soften the look of everything around there. We will be adding, we'll adjust it. Right now, there's an existing kind of a timber wood staircase that comes up this hill for the athletes to come in, and the home team is situated here on the north end of the building. Visitors are located on the south end. So what happens now is the teams come off the field, they come up this kind of dilapidated walkway, and now all the visitor team has to come through and around and mix in with the concessions and all the spectators to get back over to their team room. So we'll be adding a sidewalk around the back of the building so that they have a separate access. New walkway is a part of that. And then lastly, one of the things that we'll be dealing with is from a stormwater management side is that we're looking at using this back area here for underground detention for the stormwater. So this is kind of here's your moment of arrival. So you're coming off of the drop-off area, new gate entryway, again, really replicating, matching the existing brick that's on the building, limestone accents. We have, these would be an aluminum pin-mounted logo that will be non-illuminated, but those will be mounted onto here. The caps themselves, again, are kind of a standing seam metal roof that would match the same color as the building, athletics. We do have proposed is that there'd be a strip light right underneath this portion of the beam to provide downlighting onto the surface. So we have, in the photometric plans that we've submitted, I think we are in compliance with all of the lighting levels. So Right now, there are only, I think there's 2 or maybe 3 pole-mounted lights that are located along the drive now that go about as far as where the theater building ends. Once you get beyond that point, there is no other lighting outside of what lighting is being cast from the current field lights. So we'll have a light at this location here just to kind of wash this entrance point here. You can kind of see here is that we've got bollards. So this area is never intended to be an access for vehicular traffic just to drive through. They are removable so that when the DIA or the Detroit Symphony actually comes in and does a concert there, they can pull these out, they can drive a truck into it, have access and drop off. Also, being that this is a fire access lane, we have a 15-foot minimum clearance, which is typical of a clearance requirement for fire trucks to drive under. So we are maintaining the 20-foot width that's currently out there now for fire access, as well as vertical height for clearance of the fire truck. We'll also be then seeing here is that we're going to be adding landscape to kind of start really upgrading and elevating the area. Not only, it's also is to soften this, right? We don't want to add tons of masonry elements without having some landscape that's going to offset it and balance the area. So this is, as you start kind of walking in, we had pointed out was that there's an alumni area. Right now, that area is just a grass knoll, sits up on elevated. It's probably 10 or so feet higher than the elevation of the track. Currently, they'll bring out during alumni events, during games, they'll set up a portable tent. They have an opportunity to kind of congregate there. And they also have this kind of their senior rock out there. So what they're looking at doing was to, again, create a great space for alumni to gather and kind of really have some camaraderie around this area. So you'll see here, again, paving systems, the masonry colonnades. These will be lights that are they're LED lights, downlit, controlled so that you don't have dark sky, lighting up dark sky issues. Banners mounted to them. Banners will only be located on the kind of the walkway side. They're not on the back side at all. And the logo piece themselves would be double-sided on that area there. So as you come into it, you kind of here's a kind of an aerial perspective looking back. So we're looking at, this would be a kind of a radiused arced trellis structure. So they would have masonry columns, and then it's an aluminum structure itself with the trellis kind of topping into here. Again, brick paving, some seating out here. And then this we're looking at was to put out here was a deck area. So this really, from the grading standpoint, the deck is really flush at grade. There's some grade, a couple feet. We would make it such that we wouldn't have any greater than a 30-inch drop from deck to finished grade. So we're trying to not have to have guardrails around there and kind of obscure the view. So this would all be, kind of a safer, not a highly elevated deck location here. Also adding additional landscape around the back side of this, right? There's a large grouping of evergreen trees now as you come up that drive, but there is kind of a view that kind of peeks through here from the driveway into this space. So we would be planting the backside of that with larger evergreens, and then again adding some additional flowering trees and ground cover plantings around there to kind of just again elevate it and really define the space. Here, kind of you can see here is a lot of the trees. So this is again adding scale and a lot of softness to the area. You can again also get a good glimpse of the updated track and field here. So as you start again coming out of the area, continue walking down towards to the spectator area here. We're adding right now. There's no landscaping along this building. Right, it comes out this building. There's a concrete sidewalk, a curb, an asphalt road, another concrete curb, a little bit of lawn, and then that walk. So now we got a 20-foot wide pedestrian corridor that really elevates this whole area and really makes a great space for these people, the visitors to come to. So again, adding some landscaping to kind of soften up the architectural veneer as we move down here. Oops, next one to here. As we get past the theater building, on the right-hand side here, there's a, I think it's the transformer, Scott? Chiller area here. And that wall between, there's a wall right here, and then you can kind of see here the retaining wall for the baseball field. There's a small, I think it's a 4 or 5 foot wide sidewalk that leads you to the baseball field. You'd never know it's there. So what we're trying to do again is, this isn't all about the football or soccer, but we're trying to add all the athletics. So one of the things that we'd like to be able to do is, is to add some wall graphics that might be, whether they're permanent or whether they're hung, but there'd be a wall graphic on here, just kind of creating kind of an acknowledgement that this is the baseball zone. And so that when people are coming to here, it's a little bit more of a wayfinding element for them. And to know that, right behind this, as you turn here, you're going to walk down and have a connection back to the baseball field. Again, carrying the same paving system all the way through here. Again, logo at this point here, again, 10, 12, 13 feet. I think it's 12 feet high, but I think it's 13. This side of the sign would be an interior illumination. So it's a polycarbonate material. So it has an illumination, a glow to it. It's not meant to create enough light that you're from a safety standpoint. That's what all the other column lights are doing. This is just kind of an accent from the lighting standpoint, just to kind of identify that during the night games. As we come into the plaza, we start to see here the change of the material. So again, keeping one brick color, it continues on through, and we change over to all clay brick. Start to see here the new pavilions. So kind of move into this area here. So they're going to be rebuilding the wall. We would be looking at putting these kind of the lean kind of armrest stanchions up along this wall here. New pavilion again that would replicate back to the alumni overlook zone. So same materials, all aluminum, has some interior downlighting in it. And also they would have, electrical service that would be tied to this. And then as well as the ability to shut the louvers. So if they have an afternoon game during the summer or spring, they can shut those louvers, provide a little bit more shade on that area. This is kind of a look back now out to the football field. So you got the new stands, updated track surfacing football field. Again, kind of the scoreboard, again, it's shown here in, right at that end zone, but it's basically, if you just took this and you pushed it back just beyond this backside of the fence line here. Again, updated lighting. Light poles aren't changing, it's just the head fixtures that are gonna change. Kind of look back again to the bleachers and so disregard, not all that has been modeled by us, but gives you a sense there. Here's an overall view of the football field and track. Again, taking that scoreboard from this location here and moving it back to here where the focus of sound and visual is all back towards the stands as opposed to having to crank your neck back here. Again, kind of just moving past the press box, so give you a little bit better sense of that pavilion. The visitor side will also have a pavilion, but it's a little bit smaller, so not a big change there. One thing that you'll notice here in this is that we've now elevated the entire plaza up that 3.5 or 4 feet. And so now it's all level. It's much safer, all ADA compliant. It really makes the space a much more usable space for them. As you come around that area, now we have to come down and get into this lower level. So we have to, from the road elevation to this terrace is about 7 feet of grade change. So we have a staircase, it's down at the end here, that would service them, and well as a 8-foot wide ADA ramp. And we're doing that because the width of it, because what they, when they have bringing in concessions, products, things of that nature, taking, they got to go into the team rooms and get stuff. They're using what are they, like a small cart, like a golf cart. So they need to have some access to get down here because they don't have that anymore now. So this ramp will actually double as that and allow them to have that ability to come down. Again, landscaping on the upper level. Built in, so on the piers, each of these piers will have a light that washes down, provides lighting onto the ramp. And then we will have built-in lighting in the walls themselves that will illuminate the area. And then we're going to take there's a couple lights that are on the concessions building. We're going to take the ones that are off there and upgrade them to the same so that there's a consistency of light all the way around. Here's another view, kind of an aerial looking back. So again, another staircase though, through this location here. You can see the road's been all elevated, landscaping into here to address it. So it's going to slow anything down, make it a much safer area. And then kind of the final view, kind of a look all the way back to the west. So alumni area here, field, kind of the logo and terrace. So if you have any questions? I'm here, Jason McDonald from Foresight Design, who are the athletic field designers are here, and Scott Stanley from the school. Thank you.
Appreciate it, thank you. All right, I guess we'll bring it back to probably Brian, right? Provide us your review comments?
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chair. I just have a handful of items, some of which Rich and or Susie have kind of already covered. Thank you for the long but necessary presentation. Finally found somebody that can talk more than I can, so probably a good thing. So I'll try to keep it relatively brief, Mr. Chair, so we can get into some questions that I'm sure you all have. So as Susie noted at the outset, the site's zoned R1. Private schools and their accessory uses and facilities do require special land use approval in the R1 zone district. This includes athletic and recreational facilities. So we are clearly within that as far as the scope of the project goes. As such, procedurally, this is in front of Commission for recommendation to Village Council. Village Council will have the final review and approval authority over the project since it is a special land use. I did provide a full review letter for your consideration. I will start with the special land use consideration. So within the village zoning ordinance, section 46-188 provides the review standards for commission and ultimately council's consideration. Sorry if that's not going through. Based on the full review, I do think that generally speaking, those standards are met. Do have a few caveats that we want to make sure are addressed to the commission's satisfaction to ensure that we are fully upholding those standards. The first of which is tied to the environmental provision. As Rich noted, within the plans that we reviewed, the proposed scoreboard is on the outside of the track, and that's a pretty heavily wooded area. So what I want to do is ensure that either any tree removal is minimized, if not eliminated altogether, as far as the need for where that scoreboard is being located. So that'll be something that I will look for the petitioner to address once I'm finished here, is just making sure, again, that we have no tree removal or very limited as a result of the scoreboard. There are also provisions related to public services, infrastructure, et cetera. And obviously that falls under engineering and DPW. I think HRC did provide a review letter for your consideration. So the petitioner will ultimately have to comply through final engineering with all of those requirements. If and when commission's ready to take action on this, final engineering, as is typical, can be a condition of any favorable recommendation. The one that is really kind of, if you've gone through my letter, it's a bit redundant, I apologize, but the primary concerns that I see with the project under the special land use considerations would be related to potential noise and light generation, and specifically how that may impact the surrounding residential land uses. As you're aware, we do have residential really in all directions. Two of the neighborhoods are across major streets, but nonetheless, they still are in proximity to the football stadium and this athletic complex. So we really want to make sure that ultimately whatever happens is at least consistent with what's there now, if not improved upon. We don't want to create additional adverse impacts or potentially adverse impacts on the surrounding residential properties. And again, the two predominant items, in my opinion, would be light and noise. In particular, the lighting for the field itself, as we do have, we have a number of additional items, but they did do a photometric overlay with the new light fixtures. Again, the poles are already there as noted, but the new light fixtures, they are.
Is this, would this be helpful?
That's great.
All right.
They are, this is one of those things where the ordinance provides us with some regulation, but to suggest that your ordinance regulations were written with the intent of an athletic field in mind, is really, is not the case. So what we have lighting provisions that are really intended for commercial parking lots. But we have to do our best to try to apply them, in this case, to a football field or an athletic field. So obviously the readings, the pole heights are existing, but the readings and the pole heights obviously are well beyond anything we would typically allow in the village under your regulations, again, which are not really intended for this use. But so we really do want to make sure that lighting is contained on.
At 40, maybe a couple spots that are at that 50. Once you get beyond that, all of a sudden the levels start to drop. To the north side, you're already down at 18, 12, 10, just outside of the football field in the team area. You get to the track, you're down at 3 to 5, and then once you start getting beyond that, you're down at 1 and 0. And I think what also has to be taken into context is that, especially on this site, is that photometrics are taken, right, it's a theoretical light level that's shown on a flat plane at a 3-foot or so elevation above ground. It doesn't take into consideration anything around it vertical. So you have an entire vegetated tree line along that north and east property line that's 50, 60 feet high. That's, any of that light that's hitting there is going to be dramatically cut down. So your light levels, once you get beyond that track, are going to be substantially reduced considerably once you get beyond there. So I just want to put that in context, that this does not take into account any, any other vertical elements. Again, even there's, once you get the lighting from the light poles back onto the terrace, you're down to like a 1-foot candle. And where it cuts off to 0 is our lighting from the colonnades starts to pick up. So you can kind of see there to the far left, it starts to drop off at 0. That's where our light photometrics pick up and continues the lighting on down. So thank you. I'm sorry I figured you had that up. I'd just kind of throw that in there.
Absolutely. Again, all good information for the commission to consider here. So that's kind of a good overview of the potential lighting impacts here as it relates to the special land use conditions. The other then is the new scoreboard that's proposed, and it does have a sound system that is included. I should say the scoreboard is twofold. It does have a lighting component that is, it's in one of the slides. You're fine. I'm jumping around too. So again, there is lighting cast off of the scoreboard, obviously, but there is also a sound system that is included within the scoreboard. And I don't know if we have it on screen, but we do.
Yes.
Let's say it's also in front. There's also a hard copy that was on the dais before you this evening. Petitioner did have a sound study prepared to give us an indication of what the noise generation would be in decibels. And as you can see here, once you get into the blues, the sort of lighter, darker blue, we're into the 75, 70 decibel rating. And that's where, at least on this plan sheet, that's where it starts to hit the property line to the west, which is where additional residential uses are. So I don't know how that compares to what is there now. but, 70, 75 decibels for a football stadium is not at all unusual. And in fact, it's, again, this is just kind of my opinion out there, but it's not really that loud in the big picture. But again, part of this is we want to make sure that we're protecting those residences to the greatest extent possible. So that'll be one other thing I think that's worth discussion is what commission feels in terms of that potential impact. There are a couple of other items I have that are kind of tied back more to the site plan itself. And again, this is a case where we're trying to apply regulations the best we can to situations that they're probably not meant for, but, again, we're working within the constraints of what we have. The masonry columns and the gateway arch that was depicted earlier in the presentation, those do all have light fixtures. So the tie to the zoning ordinance is that you do have, again, restrictions on lighting as it relates to the mounting height and essentially it's referred to as the pole height because it's conventional regulation for parking lot lighting, but we're trying to massage it into this project. And those fixtures are slightly taller than the 14-foot maximum that the ordinance would allow. But the ordinance does give the commission the discretion to allow taller light fixtures, really without much guidance, unfortunately. But we have had this come up in the past. I think we've had a couple of commercial facilities where the lighting was allowed to be slightly taller. So in this case, that would be something with respect to action on the site plan. I do think you can use your discretion to allow that if you're inclined to do so. Another one, again, where we're trying to, I don't want to call it, square peg, round hole, but we're doing our best to make these ordinance standards fit this site and this project. You've seen a number of decorative elements. The masonry piers and the columns, the gateway, they all have logos. Banners are intended for many of them. There's even a sculpture of the school logo. I think you can make the case that by definition, they're not technically signs. They are not visible from off-site. They are really intended more as decoration and wayfinding. But you'd have to parse into the ordinance and the definition, and I will let you all make your own determination on that. If you do believe that all of the logos and banners do constitute signage, then I think it's probably going to have to be addressed via variance at the Zoning Board of Appeals. If there is a consensus that they don't technically meet the definition of signs, then I think we can allow them as decorative elements on these structures. So I think that's something that is probably worth a little more dialogue as well. Back to the scoreboard for a moment. The scoreboard itself, the regulations in the ordinance are within your sign regulations. And the provisions that are put forth, again, are a little difficult to apply here. The ordinance states that athletic field scoreboards are exempt from the sign ordinance if they meet a host of conditions. Well, this particular scoreboard does not meet those conditions, therefore it's not exempt. So we're trying to figure out the best path forward as it relates to that. It would exceed the size. It does, their intent is to include, video component on the scoreboard itself. Again, not unusual for modern day, well-to-do schools, if you will. There's a lot of these out there, but it doesn't really fit your ordinance. So as we have discussed with the petitioner through our pre-app meetings, Susie and I do feel that the scoreboard itself, based on not meeting those conditions, will also require variances through the Zoning Board of Appeals. We do feel that's probably the best path forward for that one particular component of the project. But I do want to point out again, it does not technically meet the standards that are put out there. My last comment really is just tied back to what I said earlier about the site engineering, and that is obviously the site plan itself is also subject to final engineering review and approval. And if and when commission considers making a favorable recommendation, I would encourage you to include final engineering as a condition of any approvals moving forward. It's really all I have, Mr. Chair, but you've seen a lot, you've heard a lot. I'll let you guys kind of digest, and then certainly feel free to ask myself, Susie, or Rich, any questions that you may have. I'm guessing there's going to be a couple.
And then hold your public hearing.
Pardon me?
And then hold your public hearing.
Of course. Thank you, Brian. I guess I want to make sure we have a procedural question, right? Are we looking at this as two recommendations? One for, if we have an approval or recommendation for approval for the special land use, then we would move to a recommendation for approval for a site plan?
That's typically how we've done it in this village, and I think that would be my recommendation for you as well.
And then also, because of the sensitivity of the issues that are presented about the sign and the lighting, that is really, usually, we come before these and the special land use approval is pretty straightforward, and it's we get into the nitty-gritty and the picky details of the site plan secondarily. However, in this instance, because of the sign and the lighting, that is instrumental to the process for the site plan, special land use approval. So I just want to make sure that we're all thinking about that reading through Brian's letter, that there is a lot of items that pertain to the special land use. I guess what I'd like to do is hold a public hearing now first, and then we can bring it back to the commission for discussion and questions of either administration, Brian, or the applicant. So it is 5 minutes after 8, so I'd like to open the public hearing for this item. If there's anybody from the public who would like to speak on this matter, please step up to the podium. Seeing none, I will close the public hearing.
And let me just note, I did send you all, though I received one question, right, which I forwarded later on this afternoon, like mid-afternoon. And it was a resident that had received the notice, and they had, quite honestly, brought up the exact same questions that we have related to decibel levels for any sound system, right? And at that point, we had not received the sound study images. And so asking about that, and then the lighting associated with it. So that was the one and only communication I received.
Okay, so I apologize, I did not see that. So
That's right.
they had the two questions. Did they have any other comments about whether they are in favor or not in favor of this project moving forward, I wonder?
They did not. They were just seeking some clarification on those items. I did respond to that resident and, let them know that, yes, we've requested additional information, and that specifically related to the scoreboard, we anticipated that was going to go to the ZBA, but I didn't have any further information at that time, so. But that was it. That was the only thing I received.
Okay, I appreciate that. So I will close the public hearing at 7 minutes after 8. All right, that brings us back to the commissioner's table. Any questions, discussion amongst us, questions for the applicant, Susie or Brian? We can start with that, with the questions, and then continue with discussions, and then look to decide on what we want to do next.
I'll go first.
Sure, Charlie, thank you.
Any of the trees you planted, some of them looked like they were like white flowering trees in the photos. Are you planning on planting like Bradford pears?
No.
Or
No,
Cali
we didn't.
pears? Okay.
No pear trees. It would probably be more what we would do if we used it would be like a flowering crab. And we're even looking at, that would be it's called a snowdrift, I think it is, it's a non-fruiting flower. We don't use pears anymore. They're considered invasive across much of the region, so not even, you can't even buy them, I think.
The next question is, will the speakers be mounted on the top or the bottom of the scoreboard or on the sides? And how does that elevation relate to the elevation of the buildings that it shows as blocking the sound?
My understanding is that The decorative mesh, that second level.
Scott?
And Scott, you gotta give us your name just for the record, please.
Scott Stanley from Country Day. My understanding is the speakers are in that decorative mesh where it's
Oh,
the
up
Shaw
there, right?
Stadium, yeah.
Right up here.
And that is 35 feet tall.
Yes, it's 30,
That wide if you right in the center, about 8 feet.
But is that taller than the buildings that are blocking the sound that you show on your plan?
So there's so again, kind of put in context, the track, going from the track up to the terrace is a 10-foot elevational change. And then once you get from that point to get to the, I get where the theater building is, that's, I think, about a story and a half. So it's probably another 20 or 25 feet tall, so.
Okay. I don't believe that, well, I guess this doesn't show reflection, right? This is just direct sound. Quite sure there'll be reflection off the buildings. I can hear you all quite clearly right now.
Yeah, one of the things I think also to mention is that it is, sound is that there's that hillside, which is all vegetated, so you will be, some sound will hit that hillside and some of the trees along there, so that'll help, but, yeah, once you get beyond, into those, back into those buildings, I couldn't answer Scott on the far right side how tall those buildings, that portion of the
I mean,
building.
do you know what the sound pressure is at the lot line where the residents are right behind you? It'd be was it the west side?
this one,
Yeah,
Where
does
the-
anybody know what the existing sound pressure is there?
And what the chart says, it's in that 70 decibel
Oh,
zone.
no, your
Oh.
chart's showing what you're gonna generate. I'm asking what it is like normally on any normal day.
Oh. Yeah,
Like how much louder is it if it's, if it's like, say it's 60 decibels, it's a logarithmic scale, so if it's 60 decibels now, it's 10 times louder than it would be, or, well, not pressure, not perceived loudness, but, so I'm asking if anybody happens to know how loud it is back there now.
if anything, we're hoping that, because of the direction of the sound, that it's actually holding more onto the campus, as opposed to now the speakers are going in both directions on the field, which then carries it across 13 Mile.
But yeah, I'm aware of that.
Well, I guess, that'd be help for clarification then, right, Charlie, is where are the existing speakers now? Are they intended to be removed?
Yes, yeah, we won't
Where are
be,
those located now?
they're mounted on the light poles.
So all 4 light poles have speakers?
Mhm.
And so I'm envisioning, and they're pointing and directed towards the fans,
Right.
and those would be removed?
Either we're going to remove them or we'll just leave them up there, whichever is easiest.
Well, they would not be functioning any longer?
It wouldn't be part of the sound system.
So then the sound systems would be all focused out of the new scoreboard?
Yes.
I guess Charlie, I'm with you a little bit, is that even though it's more interiorly directional, there's the,
It is pointed at the
4 or
closest
5.
residence versus not being pointed at the closest residence now, even
Yeah.
though there's a building in the way. I mean, just asking, can we make any recommendation contingent on performance at the lot line, sound performance? I mean, I imagine that things can be turned up and down. I don't know, I mean, to me, that's the number one, the biggest problem is noise generation. I think the light will be fine, but it'd be noise. And,
I'd like to add something on that point. On the east side, we see the sort of cutoff right at Lasser Road. How close is the field to residents on the east side of Lasser? And it looks like they might even be closer than the far west side residents that are shown in the graphic.
There's a commercial building directly across Lasser from the school there.
Yeah, yeah. I went to the dentist there once.
Yep.
Then there's that Martha's Vineyard little
Wait,
neighborhood
can you
right
see, where it says legal?
What's
Where's my-
Martha's Vineyard?
No, it's
there. What's it called? I can't remember what it's called.
West Lady, not West Lady, I'm sorry. No.
Westgate, Westwood.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah, there's like a whole-
Sweet.
Nice.
I couldn't see squat, you guys. So this is, this kind of helps us with that question, Andy, right? So these are, all the red circle is the 300-foot list. Every parcel that's highlighted in that turquoisey color, those are all the homes that received the notice.
Okay, so.
So, you know, I mean,
So in relation to the sign, that 300-foot list is from, looks like from the center of the campus?
From that.
yeah, from the edges.
Oh, from the edge of campus. So if we look at the residents on the far west, and we're saying that they're going to hit 70 decibels, and we look at the residents on the far east of where the sign is located, even though the speakers are headed in the other direction, it looks like it's maybe 2 or 3 times. That red line is like, it looks like the scoreboard will be located much closer to residents on the east side of Lasser, or even,
Yes.
yeah. But even though the
So this-
speakers are mostly directed in the other
The
direction.
scoreboard would be roughly here, where
Yeah.
the cursor is, right?
Yeah.
And right now, it's right about here.
But then I want to just bring up the point again that the idea of reflection is really, it seems really important, and also knowing more about what the existing noise level is.
You should be able to model the reflection. How often are you going to use the scoreboard? Football, soccer, lacrosse? Every weekend, 3 times a week? About how often it'll be used?
It's really hard to say. It all depends on what the season is and how the games are scheduled and stuff. I would say at least twice a week, probably,
Okay.
during the spring and a little bit less in the fall.
I think that, to both Andrew and Charlie's point, I think that it'd be good information to understand the elevation of, we have the elevation, and the survey provides the grade elevations around the track, and it goes a little bit beyond that, but it doesn't extend all the way to 13 Mile Road. So I'm looking at, we can go to that picture right there, though.
This one?
No,
Or
the previous one.
this
That
one?
one there. So when I look at that, I see the array of the illumination coming off that scoreboard. And yeah, now it extends out towards 13 Mile Road, and that's right where that gap is in the landscaping, or the tree. You got good tree coverage around the backside, Lasser, and then comes around 13, and there's that opening that you can actually see the field. And I worry about not knowing the elevation of 13 Mile Road comparative to the elevation of the scoreboard, to know if that's going to be distracting to drivers driving eastbound on 13 Mile because of the gap in the landscaping as you go east on 13 Mile Road, because the field's down lower, but the scoreboard's high, and then I think you're going to be close to that scoreboard at eye level as drivers are approaching the intersection. So knowing the elevation of, and I didn't look closely to Charlie's point, I didn't see, I should go back and look at the elevations along the school building. But knowing the elevations at 13 Mile, then also then a little bit at Lasser to, and answer Andrew's questions, to know what we're understanding the relationship of the height of the sign to not the sign, the scoreboard, to the surrounding areas. I have another one. I just want to get clarification. I'm looking at the drawings, and it appears, and I'm looking for verification, are the bleachers expanding? They are getting longer. They're increasing in the length of the,
They'll move a little bit to either end, and they'll be replacing portable bleachers that we currently have used all along.
and then, some of that stuff that you presented, Rich, I appreciate that. But looking at the graphics that you had showed, there was also, in addition to the logo for the Instagram pic and then, but there was also imagery of Detroit Country Day being spelled out along the far side of the field on the images that you presented, but it wasn't in the package. So I just want to make sure that, I see these two images at the,
Sorry.
no, you're all right, those two images at the right side at the screen wall for the chiller plant. But then in one of your other images, you had the whole Detroit Country Day spelled out. And I didn't know if that was a part of the additional, right there.
There?
That was on both sides of the
Yeah,
field.
all that is a windscreen that'll be running alongside or running on the chain link fence to kind of seal the stadium in.
So that is going to be, that is part of the development, is to add that in with the chain link. I guess, Brian, I was, when you're commenting about the height of the light fixtures, other than the entry one, when I was reading looking at the documents, the entry was the underside is at 15 foot. Understanding that it's for clearance. But the ones mounted at the colonnade, the individual columns as they walk down, the diagrams and the documents are showing that as a maximum height of 14 feet to the top of the fixture. So that still is within the intent, and when you were speaking for the
For the
poles.
fixture, sure, the structures themselves are at 16 feet max.
I see.
So that's, again, trying to massage a regulation to fit.
I see what you're saying, so if you're, okay. If you consider that structure as a pole
There you
versus a built element.
Yeah, the fixture, the mount height on the individual columns, I think would comply with the conventional light standards. What I was trying to point out was the additional 2 feet of height for the structure itself.
I see. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I was thinking of this as no different than fixtures mounted to a building wall.
Sure.
Okay. All right, I just wanted to get clarification, and thank you. Any others from the commission with questions?
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Yes?
I'm not sure if we received an answer on this, where the scoreboard is proposed to go, how much vegetation would be removed?
As far as I know, the sign company is kind of handling all that. As far as we've been told that they don't intend to remove anything, but we can verify that and make sure that that's followed back up with staff and clarify that. But at this point, from our understanding, that is not intended to remove anything.
I guess I did wonder, as we're looking at this image right here, there are right now currently existing evergreens planted along the roadway, between the roadway and the field. Are those intended to remove, or be removed, or are they?
Remove those, yeah. What we're trying to do was, right now, there's a spruce tree that's out there now. So what we felt was that as we elevated kind of the whole experience of coming down through this walkway, that we wanted people to be able to look down and see the field. And then also was that the shade trees, as they get larger, will create a bigger canopy so that it starts to actually envelop the space a little bit more. So as opposed to the evergreens, which will grow vertical and never outward for the most part, right? The shade trees will actually create more canopy, so you start to actually develop a little bit more refinement as you walk down that corridor. So that was kind of the intent of why we ended up switching those out.
I did not look, and I apologize. Was there a kind of tabulation of indicating the trees being removed versus trees being replaced?
No, we can follow back up with that.
As I look through my notes, is there any other questions for the applicant or administration? So looking at, I'm just looking at the drawings here. Charlie, to answer your question, it looks like at the building, we're at elevation of 706. And the base of the sign, that existing grade is 688. So you add 35 feet to 688, that's 723 feet versus 706, so quick math, 20 foot, just under 20 foot.
Yeah. So I'm sorry, I'm trying to follow along. So you're saying it'd be 20, the sign will be 20 feet over the elevation of 13 Mile?
No, I'm at the building, not at 13 Mile. I don't know what the elevation is at 13
Okay.
Mile. So the height of the sign
Yeah.
is that, would be the top of the sign, as it is proposed now, is at an elevation of 723 feet. And the grade at the building,
Which building?
the theater building,
Okay, so that's on the other side.
opposite is 706, so that difference is 19 feet from the grade. So whatever that height of that wall is, that gives you a perspective. The sign, the scoreboard is going to be 19 feet taller than if you're standing at the theater building, the top of that scoreboard. So trying to put together a perspective of somebody standing here, the top of that sign is, 3 times the height of a person.
Slightly taller than those columns.
Would be the top of that sign. Scoreboard, I'm sorry, I keep calling it sign, I apologize.
Yeah, again, the concern is really, does the building block that from the people behind them? Noise and light.
And then we have to, as a commission, I think, look at and provide some, or have some discussion on the logos and the banners that are spaced throughout, and whether or not those constitute signs, and how we move forward with that. I think, that's an interesting one that we really need to contemplate. The ordinance allows banners of a 6 square foot area, and these are 8 square feet. But those banners are only temporary. Like, you could start looking at the consideration, if those are replaced, that they are pseudo-temporary, except for, I think there was a 30-day max, if I recall correctly. But I'm just using that more as a reference, that in our ordinance, we describe banners, temporary banners, and we define them, and it's at a 6 square foot size, as compared to these being proposed at 8 foot. Just more food for thought in the consideration of how we look at not only the logos at the columns along the colonnade, but also then the larger logo down near the baseball entry. I think that was all my notes. I think from, I guess, my perspective, and I'll just keep this conversation started, from the lighting perspective of the walkway, I think that looking at the foot candle readings, What is our maximum allowable in a parking lot?
10.
10, okay. So along the pathway, we're all within
Yep.
what we would require at a parking lot. And I think that's a nice little accent, enhancement to that space.
Yeah, the only, in terms of the lighting intensities, the field lighting, the replacement fixtures are the only ones that are above. All of the other internal, the decorative, the pathways, the building mounts, all of those are in compliance.
Okay. Did we, I thought that, I saw that you requested information on what the existing light levels were. Did we receive that? And again, if you sent it via email, I did not have a chance to look at that today.
This was, words. This was what was provided, this was done back in 2003, when these were last replaced, I guess it was. So this is, I mean, really, it's the field, right? So this is what we're looking at, and let's see if I can get in. This is where, getting better.
40, 41, 42?
Yeah.
Usually there's a chart on the side that'll provide maximum minimums. Is that
Let's see.
height?
Max. And they've got it broken down by each pole, right? So maximum height is 66. I don't think they're going, this is the chart we want.
I think it might have been at the top, might have had that 46.58.
Right. That's what we got.
I'm not sure what the max there, max EPA. I don't know what EPA is. Unless that's the angle? I don't know, but
I don't know.
ChatGPT will tell me.
it's not Environmental Protection Agency. And then our lighting levels are a little bit more robust than that. At the center of the field, we get up to 50s.
According to our computer overlords, it is the maximum wattage you're allowed to install for exterior lighting, maximum exterior power allowance, whatever that means.
Effective projected area.
Hallucinations.
Wow. Rock for the win.
Still doesn't help, doesn't give me a foot candle
Fail.
number.
Gives you what EPA stands for is what you asked for.
I'm gonna go with your phone.
This is.
Did we, I seem to think that, did we look at stadium lighting somewhere else? We didn't have any
Not that
lights on?
I was able to find.
I mean, Scott, did you don't have any, do you have any lights on the baseball field?
No,
Okay.
these are the only lights we have.
All right. Thinking of something else then.
I mean, what is it like? Some kilowatts.
I generally am not as concerned about lighting of the field itself, because it's contained in its existing mounting heights. It's really about the scoreboard for me. Not only from a lighting side, sound side, the overall size of it in relationship to our current ordinance, which is 200 square feet for a scoreboard.
It's a little bit bigger than that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm right there with you. Like, as far as I can see, the stadium lighting and all the pathway lighting, that'll be fine. It's just scoreboard and how it's angled. You're right, you can probably see it from 13 Mile Road. I'm looking at the building here, this one-story brick building, it says, where it looks like the sound is directly, it's coming in at a 45-degree angle, right? So it's going to bounce at a 45-degree angle across Lasher Road, that sort of thing. I think I'd be much more comfortable if we saw a better, or a more detailed or sound model with reflections and that sort of thing, and taking into account building heights and that sort of thing.
Yes, you're referring to the concession stand area, right? Yeah,
Is that what that
'cause
is? It says, it says one-story brick building.
Yeah, that's, because that would, isn't it Westwood across the street? Something like that? Anyway, but that would be almost that direction.
Yeah, because you see it's gonna
Yep.
get the angle incidence. It's, and seeing stuff like that, you might be those one or two houses right there that you're gonna have this like focus projection of sound on.
And then I worry about the ones at the other end, at the west end of the parking lot, that, because now directly across the field and then to the across the parking lot to those 3 or 4 residents at the end, before you tuck behind the school. It'd be good to have a sound study of the current situation, to understand.
Yes, so that's Riverbank Drive right there.
Yeah.
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 That's what that is, yep. And that would be, yeah, that's like right going across Lasser, if it were to reflect.
So if we look at information that would be helpful for us, to help better understand the implications on the neighbors, would be additional sound modeling from the scoreboard, that how it impacts the areas outside of the campus due to reflectance, reverberation off of the buildings, being that they're masonry buildings too. We're going to have some reflectance. Understanding the elevation along 13 Mile and Lasser, to have understanding of the relationship of the top of the scoreboard to the roadways. What am I missing, commissioners? Oh, and then looking at if there's a way to I think it'd be helpful if we had a model of the existing speaker system, knowing on how that would compare to the upgrades.
Yeah, I think,
We have the lights, the existing lighting on the field. It's the sound and then the lights of the scoreboard.
I'd probably even go farther, is that I think it'd help to understand what speakers you're gonna use. I mean, there's directional speakers and things that are wider angle and that sort of thing. Maybe it's possible you find something that can be focused at the spectators, perhaps, maybe.
Or is there consideration for a sound system be incorporated more with the press box side? That doesn't broadcast across.
Like, where's the press box?
It's where the field is, where the bleachers are, just above the
Oh, so
bleachers.
like down,
Kind of the back of the fans.
back, down, something, yeah, maybe.
That's kind of what we were trying to avoid with shooting it, northward. Because we have had issues years ago with the neighbors across 13. So we were hoping that by pushing it back towards the school, that we would eliminate the neighbors.
I guess that's, Scott, that's where it'd be helpful to have a model of the existing conditions to know, are we improving the situation? Or are we just shifting conditions?
Yeah, and I'd probably say the people on the west side have been, fairly aggrieved in the past by certain things, so I would not want to make their situation any worse.
So Chair, if I may, I would suggest maybe tabling this and requesting a detailed sound study.
Yeah, I was just going to turn to my fellow commissioners if there's any other.
Excellent.
Because Charlie and I have been having a lot of comments here ourselves, so I was going to turn to fellow commissioners, if there's any other items we want to add, and so that we can provide more direction to the applicant, and then with, hopefully with some additional information that then we can move this forward at a later date, after we have a chance to review more detailed information.
I think if we can get an update as well with how much vegetation would be removed from the sign company, what's actually, if it's gonna take trees out, what the plan with that would be.
And one more comment about the sound. This picture is really bound at a 70 decibel level on each side. And I'm wondering if we might be able to zoom out a little bit because, 60 decibel, 50 decibel is still audible, and how far that would go out. In a sound study, it would be nice to be able to zoom out just a little bit further to see the residents on the east side and on the north side, east side of Lasser and on the north side of 13 Mile, particularly your comment about the noise level in the past.
Oh, that was surprising.
Shoot, I would have thought. All right, with that, if there's anything else that anybody else has to offer to the applicant? And it sounds like that there's a consensus, it feels like might be a motion in our future here to table this for further information. I guess I'll go on saying that I think that the plan is really nice and the development, the signs, the logos, we didn't discuss that. I don't know if there's a further information that is required of the applicant to provide us, but is it, I don't, we could easily make that, one course of action is to let zoning board of appeals provide
Interpret that.
or determine the direction on whether or not these are, logos versus signs for consistency. And I guess, we don't need to make that decision tonight, but something to consider is how to treat all these items.
Personally, it's interior to the property. It's not really seen from the road or anything. I don't have any heartburn one way or another with the signs.
I'm in agreement with you, with one exception that I saw, and I didn't really get clarification. I got more confused, but back to the scoreboard, there was a section of the scoreboard that had an allowance for commercial advertising. And I'm wondering if that is still in the plan, or has that been kind of removed? I saw.
No, I squashed that one.
That one's.
That's been squashed.
Okay.
So just to be clear, there will be no commercial advertising on the scoreboard?
There is no commercial advertising.
It's something that the sign company, scoreboard company uses to sell it and get payback, for the sign.
I thought I saw
We
something
have no
about
plan.
Thank you.
Again, I don't think we have to make any move on that. It's just something I want to throw out there for the commissioners to consider and think about, how we want to approach that in the future.
ZBA will be meeting in March, so if you would like an interpretation, I am happy to ask for that at the March meeting.
Okay, appreciate that. Thank you. Commissioners? Looking for a motion? Need a motion to move along?
So I'll just make a motion consistent with Patrick's desire to move along. I think we all share that. Just make a motion to table and address at a later point in time following completion of the sound study. Is there anything else that we are interested in other than the sound study information? I realize that there was a lot included, but is sound study generally inclusive of everything?
There was lighting from the sign and trees.
Okay, excellent. Thank
Tree
you so much.
removal, road elevations, the extent of the sound study beyond just the property lines.
Wonderful. Perfect, okay. I think I've got the additional items down. So I just make a motion to table the Detroit Country Day Special Land Use and Site Plan Review number 1, adjourning it until the next meeting and requesting the applicants to submit studies regarding road elevation of 13 Mile Road?
And Rosser.
And Losser. The removal of trees, the total amount of trees that will be removed to accommodate the scoreboard. And also a sound study that identifies the existing scoreboard speakers as well as the proposed replaced scoreboard speakers and the sound that reverberates on the campus as well as outside of the confines of the campus. That is my motion.
That's fantastic.
Thank you, I appreciate
Any
it.
dis- Any other?
Ms. Harper assisted as well.
I'll second,
Second, oh, wow, that's quick.
unless there was, I can remove my second.
You want to pull back?
Only if there was something else.
No,
that
no, I was just going to ask, do roll call, or does that be, is it roll call for table?
We could do a voice vote, or.
Chair's discretion.
Chair's discretion,
All right,
thank you. Words.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Of the tabling?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Any questions, please contact Susie. I think it's a great-looking plan. It's very nice. We just got to get through, make sure that we're taking everything into consideration.
Not a problem.
So
Thank you very much.
Appreciate
I'll
the
call you after
presentation.
coffee tomorrow. I'm gonna need a little.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Moving right along to our exciting part of the most exciting part of the agenda,
It is.
the joint meeting with Village Council.
Yes.
So, Susie,
Yeah.
you're going to read us in on this one?
Yeah.
Provide us
first-
some summary and overview?
Yeah, let's first just quickly note that we're convening the joint meeting portion of this wonderful session at 8:47, and we do have a quorum of council, right? So typically, I think you guys have done these as separate meetings, like apart from the business of planning commission, right? I tried for real to make this like that, but business happens. So we have just a couple.
Should have reversed them.
Yeah, well, it is what it is, right? So joint meeting, we have a few very broad topics. First, we're going to talk about our annual report, what we did, and what we're going to do, and where we're at with the RRC and master plan, and then talk about the master plan some more. So, in terms of our annual report, you guys were busy last year. We had a total of 10 meetings, one of which was our joint meeting. We canceled a few times. We've had a few membership changes. We did have 3 planning commissioners that resigned for various reasons, or their terms expired, and we now have 3 new members, Mr. Ross being one of them. We had a couple sign permits, or fence permits, I'm sorry, before we made that ordinance change, and then we had a whole bunch of signs, and they were all related to Market Fresh. So we're moving forward on that. And we actually had a few, almost all of our site plans were site plans and special land uses. So last year was the year of special land uses. And those were for Beverly Hills Grill, Beverly Hills Academy, Detroit Country Day for their playground, and then Northbrook Presbyterian for their expanded garage. You had 1 rezoning, and that was for our newest public park, right? So we rezoned that from RA to public property. And we finally made some major progress on the fences, walls, and privacy screen ordinance language. I'm happy to report there was not a giant run on 6-foot fences, okay? We've had a few, but less than a handful. So there has not been the giant run. And then we've also, you also made some changes to an established really generator and mechanical unit standards, which so far seems to be going pretty well. We had our joint animal ordinance subcommittee that did fantastic work working through amendments to Chapter 8. Ultimately, it was pulled out of zoning, as we know, and it's in the general code now. Which brings us to what we're doing, what's in the year ahead, and that is going to be our master plan update and our zoning ordinance overhaul. Like, I know we made changes at the end of 2024 to help make the zoning portion of the ordinance a lot easier. We still need a whole lot more work. But I'm just going to kind of set those aside for right now, because we're going to talk about that after the annual report. Some of the other work that was identified at our last planning commission meeting of the year was really working on developing standards for work trailers, larger garages, since that seems to be a theme for zoning board of appeals. How do we want to deal with dumpsters and roll-offs and temporary storage units? And last but certainly not least, one of the items that has been lingering on the to-do list is short-term rentals. And after having a good discussion with our new village attorney, Kristen Kolb, it is her guidance that leads us to accept that we don't necessarily need to draft standards for short-term rentals. As we know, the zoning ordinance is permissive, right? If it's not in the zoning ordinance, you can't do it, right? So using that interpretation, short-term rentals are not in the zoning ordinance. Ergo, you cannot have a short-term rental. We're comfortable with that standard. I mean, administratively, we're comfortable with that. But, so that is something that we should probably just confirm. Do we want them? Do we not want them? So just marinate on that for a minute. And really, if the state, because I know one of the things that we kind of, that held us back from moving forward as quickly as maybe we wanted to was what the heck is happening at the state level? And the answer is nothing. So, you know, if if it gets to a point where the state does pass legislation that may conflict with what we currently have on the books or how we're currently enforcing, then we can make amendments at that time. But personally, I'm comfortable with saying short-term rentals are not in the zoning ordinance, and so they're not allowed, and we can begin enforcement on that. All right.
Has there been any enforcement yet, or is it just something that we're just confirming and then, because we've heard a lot of people talking about it and frustrated with it, so I think that that's gonna be a big relief for the neighbors living next to some of these.
I agree. There's not been enforcement on short-term rentals, at least as long as I've been here. I think it's been something that is, I know from the building department perspective, it has been frustrating for them too, because they're like, I mean, we have long-term rentals, yes. But like how, how are we supposed to interact with this, right? Is kind of been the way the building department has viewed it and looked at it. So this is an incredible relief to them as well.
Because yeah, with the long-term rental, we have an inspection process, which we don't have that really for a short-term rental. So, there's not even a way to make sure that it's necessarily a safe home, right?
Right, yes, and the long-term rentals, they get inspected every 2 years, right? Every time it changes over, so, and this is kind of getting a little far afield of the annual report itself, but as part of that, the rental ordinance overall needs to be a little bit more robust for the building department to really do the best job that they can.
And that will be a topic at Saturday morning's council meeting.
So put a pin in that one. So that is.
I guess, I'll just add in there, we ran into a similar, it wasn't the same item, but the same approach to the zoning ordinance in the past, when we had the storage facility being proposed.
A what?
And we had a storage facility being
I
proposed.
totally heard something different.
And so it did not move forward because it wasn't permitted by the ordinance, so then it was pushed out. So, we've gone down this path before by something not being permitted in the ordinance. We did not move it forward. So I see that train of thought. It aligns to what we've done in the past.
Exactly. So, any questions, though, on the annual report itself?
Susie, are you intending to get into more on the master plan? Right?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
All right, go ahead.
Absolutely. I'm actually going to get into a little bit more on the redevelopment-ready communities.
Oh, yeah.
And I guess because Planning Commission, you are going to have to accept this annual report and technically forward it on to council for them to adopt. But RRC, as you may recall from even last year, we kind of had to renew, if you will, our application to RRC, and they gave us our scorecard last year, and we had a few things checked off. I'm happy to say that we've been making progress on that. I've made my own modifications to the list that they gave us because I thought that was kind of helpful. And actually, within the last 24 hours, we've had 2 of these things actually been checked off, right? So our standards related to conceptual review meetings, right? Those are our pre-application meetings that Brian and I do. We've had a couple of them with Detroit Country Day. We have them with most of our commercial applicants that are interested in doing business in the village, right? So that is officially, we've officially been able to check that one off. Also, with the changes to, allowing site plans to be approved by right by Planning Commission, that was a big one. And then also, we've really documented our internal review process. So we've got some things checked off on the list. We have a few more things that are actually in the pipeline for RRC to review probably within the next couple of weeks. A lot of the items that are remaining in the RRC checklist are related to the master plan. And what do we want to see in the master plan? You know, it talks about housing and it talks about sustainability and these kinds of items. So at the completion of the master plan, we'll be able to check off a whole lot, okay? Any questions on RRC stuff? Yes, sir.
Thank you. So you mentioned that your grading wasn't up to standard. What is the optimal grade that we're striving for so we can be developed or redevelopment-ready community?
I mean, really, they want us to be at 100%. We can get there, right? Some of them are tougher lifts than others, right? You know, like one of them is your financial incentives. We don't offer financial incentives, so maybe we'll get like a 99, right? Like there's, that's just not something that I anticipate that we'll ever really be able to check off their list, right? Is there another way that we can provide incentives to developers down the road? Maybe. Do we need to? Probably not. But, I mean, that's something that'll be up for discussion as we kind of, as, you know, it's more of the higher fruit, if you will, right? Like keep ticking off the lower hanging items that we can. But we can get there. Like, I'm not daunted by any of this, right?
As a follow-up, is there anything analytical about the population of the city, village, or the community itself?
For RRC?
Yeah.
No,
Okay.
no.
So I thought maybe if they had, you know, more people, then their standards might, you know, be more flexible, or economies of scale will play a role, you know, that's all.
Well, they've got slightly different levels, right? Like you can be fully certified, you can be in alignment, right? And the way they look at it is like the communities that are mostly aligned are generally the smaller ones that aren't necessarily going to be able to tick off all of those higher item things, right? So we're, like I said, we'll be able to, we'll definitely meet all of the essentials, right? That's their aligned version, the essentials or the certified. We'll get there eventually.
And then how do we compare to other smaller communities around us that are ready right now? Do we look at that just as a comparison?
I haven't looked at it.
This is the county, right?
No, this is at the state level. I honestly haven't looked at to see how we compare. But I can tell you, Lathrop Village was RRC certified. They were one of the first communities to be RR certified. And it was a struggle to keep that certification for a whole multitude of reasons. So, I mean, it is possible. Going back to my example of like the financial incentives, that is something that Lathrop Village has, right? They have those, and they offer those through their DDA, which is very well funded and has been for a while, right? So I really think it's a bit of a mixed bag in terms of smaller communities versus larger communities. But there's definitely a push to embrace the best practices of RRC, and even without the certification, I mean, it ultimately goes to help the community, right? It makes it an easier process for everyone.
Thanks, Susie.
Yep.
So when you mention certification, so it's not just a one-time certification, you got to keep up with this?
Yes.
Is that on an annual review? How often does that review occur?
Yeah, it'll be an annual review, and I'm in pretty regular communication with our RRC liaison.
Okay.
So, any other questions on RRC? All right, last but not least, so they're in that annual report, there is that color-coded, there was the color-coded, very tiny print spreadsheet of the master plan checklist, right? All the green is done. We've made fantabulous progress, all right? But I took all the reds and I put them on a far more legible giant spreadsheet. That all of us, old and young eyes, can read. So still, we've accomplished quite a bit. A lot of this is still things that will be accomplished with the master plan update and the zoning ordinance overhaul, right? Just looking at this, you know, like the site plan review, is there stuff, are there items that we would like to have approved administratively? Like, do you want me to approve sign face changes, right? Like, that's a pretty easy one. You know, the policy of coming to planning commission before ZBA, I mean, that's a policy thing that we can adopt, right? So some of these things, you know, but reviewing our non-conforming standards, I mean, they are significant in that they will make everyone's lives easier. Are they giant changes? Not necessarily. They could be. On the back side of that page, we have, we do need to make some updates to our wireless communication regulations. For whatever reason, we don't have a complete streets ordinance, and so we need to probably come up with something for street design, right? That will ultimately help DPW too, that will help maintenance, all of that. The sustainability, well, I'll use that as my lead-in to the master plan.
Susie, I'd like to just throw in a comment about streets, though.
Yes, please.
I mean, when we were going through the town center, Southfield area, one of the considerations that we had was having flexible design opportunities for streets and not adhering to the county standard. So not looking at just saying it's got to be a, I don't remember now, my memory's going, 36 right-of-way or whatever, roadway for a road. Well, I think that was really part of when we looked at this master plan, when we updated it 10 years ago, it was about looking at being creative in the design of streets and looking at different opportunities with street design instead of falling back on the standard of 50, 60 years ago.
Right.
So that's my highlight for that one there, is just being more creative.
I have jokingly suggested to the road commission that we do chicanes, and they were like, oh my God. So, chicanes are windy roads, just in case you want to know. It gave them some heart palpitations, but you know, I don't mind poking the bear and doing something creative, right? And that's, I mean, it's our community. We should design it in a way that is reflective of what we desire, right? But overall, I would say that we have made, in the 10 years since the adoption of this master plan, I think you guys have done a really fantastic job of checking off this to-do list and making very significant headway. I understand why the things that are remaining on this list are still on this list. They're not easy, they're not simple, and they're not fast. Any questions on the remaining items that we have, or what we've accomplished so far on the master plan?
Susie, I wanted to talk to you about the items listed on sustainability, wildlife development. Are you getting into that more in your master plan conversation? Would you like me to hold my?
Stand by, please.
Okay, thank you.
Stand by.
Keep that.
I guess one I would add, want to comment on, since we have representation from council here tonight, is Z4, the woodland ordinance. If we're going to undertake a rewrite of the zoning ordinance, this would be the opportune time to include a woodland ordinance as part of that rewrite. So I know that we put a pause and a hold on that at the joint council meeting that we had in 2025. So just something to consider moving forward. If we're going to go through with the zoning ordinance rewrite, that would be the appropriate time to consider it. Just throwing it out there.
I'm not a fan of the permitting for tree removal. I think it's constraining.
We don't have an ordinance to even say that we.
No, I know,
permit
I'm just saying, like, if
processes.
we moved forward, I don't have a problem with, like, maintaining landmark trees and, wooded areas and things like that. just, I think there's, permitting for tree removal can be challenging for people. I've had 2 trees that had to come down within hours so they don't fall in a building, and that, I'm sure that could be written in, but I prefer it just not even exist. Maybe if people need to remove a tree, they should be able to remove a tree.
I think that's part of the process in developing
Yeah, yeah,
this
yeah.
woodlands ordinance, is whether or not we need to consider that. I know that was an item that we had back then, but having some
I think age.
guardrails on,
Yeah.
you know, what we're looking for as a community. Because the other thing is, as we have the classification as Tree City USA, one of the requirements is a tree ordinance.
No, I think it makes sense. I'm just saying the notion of removal, I think I'd be somewhat against that.
Sure.
Just from the standpoint of, but yeah, like I said, I think makes sense to me.
Yes, Rack.
I have a couple. Non-conforming, non-motorized with all the technology and delivery robot stuff that's happening around us with, Amazon, so on and so forth. Does that pertain to non-motorized? And what are we going to do about it if they're going to come into our village?
Oh, for the drones? No, that's specifically talking about pedestrians and bicyclists and scooter users and e-bikes and skateboards and,
All right.
that kind of thing.
So where do those robots that come down your sidewalk fall into all this? And they're non-motorized. I mean, if their propulsion is, electric or whatever. Still need a motor though, right?
You seeing those already?
Yeah. Not around here,
Oh.
but I'm seeing them in California and there's just a
I think they're
few.
probably ways off for residential. I think air drones might be something because of the Pontiac.
Well, that's something that
That might be
also
something
think
to
about too.
consider.
Yeah, I actually had, somebody in Detroit, I was at their house and they had something dropped off.
I think the air drones are something we should be considering, but I don't know about motorized robots dropping off, DoorDash or anything.
They're
That's
at college
more of a-
campuses.
College campuses and urban areas where those are most
Yeah.
used, not really,
Okay,
we don't have any big retail spaces they would support. But drones, I think with the Amazon place would be something we'd want to consider what our rules are around that or what we want to think about.
right. I was kind of leading
You
into
have
that.
puzzled.
No, I'm just wondering, what's the, what,
That, to me, is probably more of a general code thing, but we can
There can
contemplate,
be
or utilities,
like,
maybe?
altitude at which they have to operate, like you don't want them coming down too
Wrote that
close
down,
to
right?
homes, or there's noise they can make, things like that. So I don't know what the standards are communities are implementing, but I think we should be looking at that as a relatively potential concern here in the village.
yeah,
They're
what I
heavy
was,
devices too, so if they fall out of the sky,
yeah, that's what I was thinking about is, I don't know, but are there FAA guidelines and restrictions on
there will be.
drones? So I don't know if there is any right now in place and how that process works, but that's what my puzzled look was about, was like,
But there are, but I think for the purposes of our village, we can have even further, I don't know how much we can override what they have, but we can, for example, we may not want them landing in backyards, right? We could put that as constraint. I don't know how they work yet. I've done a lot of reading on it, but I know that Pontiac's going to be piloting that. And we have one of the biggest Amazon centers in these states in our backyard, so I think we're slightly out of the range right now, from what I understand, but it's probably not long before they hit Birmingham and Beverly Hills. And
sure.
Yeah, we're only about a mile and a half out.
No, I know,
Yeah,
we're
yeah.
like close,
I get the deliveries in Troy
yeah.
at my office, but we're a mile and a half out, and there are plans.
They're coming.
No, they plan to do, I think like
Yeah.
within the next 5-year life cycle of our master plan, it will be relevant. So that's the only reason I bring it up. I think it's something we should have a position on.
I would add it, I think the legal context and framework in which all of that gets regulated is definitely something that we, other municipalities, the state, FAA will all be taking a look at, and can't comment further on what we can and can't do now, but again, I think we're all aware that it's coming.
I just think in the master plan, we should, be addressing things like that.
And then the second one was the disaster plan. I see that ours is going 9 years out as far as the preparedness plan. Are they saying that they have a preparedness plan right now? Because I know I know we've had one in the past. I don't know where we're at with it now, and why is it projected out for 9 years?
I don't know if we have one or not.
You know,
Um,
done right away?
It should be. I mean, it's definitely something, I don't think we've made movement on this particular element.
All right.
You know, and some of these things they do, they project further out because a master plan is really intended to be a 20-year vision, right?
20.
So,
Yeah, I think that when we did the update, we put that out there as, that's a goal to have
Okay.
something put together in 2035, because we had other items that were higher priority, and we knew we couldn't tackle everything at once, so.
I'm just gauging the temperature of the country right now. I think that should be something that we ought to look at. You know, what do we do in instances?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think this purpose of a master plan and updates and reviews every 5 years, because
Right.
things change.
Right.
But I'm just going back as at that time,
Gotcha.
it was something that was, at that time, we had higher priority items, so that was just put off into sometime into the future.
Mr. Chair, to that end, the prioritization that's within the implementation table is always subject to change. Something can happen, that may have been a long-range recommendation in the 2015
Now it'll
plan,
be
and if it's
closer.
something that is more pressing today, you just change your prioritization and you can work on it at any point in time.
It's just my recommendation.
Yeah, you don't, my point just being that, just because it says on paper that we're gonna do this in 20 years, you don't have to wait the 20 years to get there.
No, no.
And we
You can do
probably
it
did,
whenever
It's not-
you need to.
we probably jumped ship on a couple of these.
Sure.
In 2035, some of them you're going to push further out even, you know,
Yeah.
the stuff that are less priority.
Yes.
You know, because everybody thinks like 2035 seems like a long time, but really it isn't. So.
no, it's not. So if there are no other questions on
Nope.
Planning Commission, can I have like a motion to accept this and technically forward it on to them so they can adopt it?
Yeah, so I guess I am looking to my commissioners for a motion to accept the annual report for the 2025, of the Planning Commission for the year 2025, and forward it on to council. That sound right?
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion, if I may.
Certainly.
Thank you. I'll make a motion to accept the Planning Commission 2025 annual report and to forward the same on to Village Council.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Terry, you're on a roll, man. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
All right, next up.
Have fun with that, council.
Or them.
Master plan. So, all right, so all these are our implementation chart, our outstanding list of items to do is gonna get bigger. We are, as I said, the last master plan was updated in 2016, reviewed in 2021, and affirmed no changes. It's gonna change this year. We're due for our 5-year review. So we're gonna look at it anyways this year. But we have some changes that need to be made. State law has changed at this point and now requires that all master plans include a dedicated chapter to housing, and one that explores a variety of housing types and promotes a variety of housing types. So if for nothing else, we'd have to open it up to add this. But, as I know Tracy's getting her, she doesn't look energetic, but she's passionate about this one, I know. One of the other chapters that I know I want to add, and I know Tracy wants to add, is a sustainability, stormwater management chapter. Like, can we please get to the 21st century? So, it's going to, I personally think that kind of chapter is going to help the community in ways that we're not actually going to we're not going to go down all those rabbit holes. We all know we have flooding issues in basements. We have flooding in our roadways. We have all manner of things. And those are just the ones that are popping to my brain at almost 9 or after 9. So that's a chapter that I would like to add in addition to the housing. And then, as Brian and I have kind of discovered over the last handful of months, as we've been meeting with different prospective developers and interested individuals, we really need to take a look at our transition zones. They are currently identified in the master plan. We've got think we've got 3 areas, right? Evergreen or 13 in Evergreen, 13 in Lasser, 13 in Greenfield. And, you know, some of the projects that come to us and they might be good, but they're not in the transition, they're not identified as a desirable kind of use in those transition zones, and they're not the master, or the future land use map in the master plan doesn't allow for it either. So those are the ones I have. Ryan? Yes.
Sorry for my ignorance, what's a transition zone?
The transition zones are, those are generally, so most of our zoning is obviously residential. These are at major intersections where perhaps straight residential isn't the best, highest and best use of that property, right? For example, Evergreen and 13 Mile calls for higher density residential. It does not contemplate any sort of retail, commercial, office kind of use. However, that might be a good spot for some small-scale retail, right? Something that is more neighborhood focused, right? That is not as intense as perhaps the commercial quarter of Southfield Road, but something that can more easily service, the residents in the surrounding neighborhoods, right?
Is that just the one corner effectively at that intersection? Because you have Groves, you
Well,
have
there'd be
a
the
church.
It could be the
Yeah,
church, it could be,
eventually
well, obviously it doesn't include Southfield, right?
Okay, so it's our 2 corners?
But it's our corners.
3 corners.
Our 3 corners, and that one actually, it's really encompasses more, it goes more west
Okay.
as opposed to
all.
all of them. But then, you know, like Lasser and 13, it encompasses, you know, those the three corners excluding Detroit Country Day, right? And really, it's just we need to evaluate if what's identified in those transition zones is what we still want, or if we would like to encourage different kinds of development and be flexible in that application. So those are my big ideas for the master plan. I'm wondering if there are other areas of focus that you would like to include. I mean, obviously, we're going to be updating demographics. We're going to be looking at our land uses. I mean, there are some things that we are relatively basic, right, that we're going to be doing to the master plan, but are there other major areas that we would like to explore?
You mentioned dedicated housing. What kind of housing are you referring to?
Honestly, that's to be determined determined as part of the master plan process. When you look at RRC and what is in the state law, they're looking for, do you allow for accessory dwelling units? Do you allow for low, medium, and high density multifamily? Are you only allowing single-family detached? That won't fly anymore, right? Like, oh, we only want single-family detached on 2-acre lots. No, thank you. Like that, so they want to see a variety of housing types. They are not necessarily prescribing what it should be, because it should still fit within the community, right? But that would have to be determined as part of the public engagement and outreach that we do as part of the master plan. Yes.
So Susie, when you're talking about your sustainability stormwater chapter, are you looking on your table and you're saying these are the sort of guiding elements, or are you looking for feedback on what else? Because this can go pretty far, or we can start small, right? So do you want to hear from us on what sorts of other things besides what's on this list, or do you have other ideas as to what goes into a section like that?
I'm all ears for ideas, right? This is, I think, a good starting point. And I don't expect us to get into the nitty-gritty of this, right? Like my broad plan is that I'm going to we're drafting an RFP, like now, right, for release within the next couple of weeks. Because a lot of these finer details are going to come out in that public engagement, right? But this, knowing broadly what we want to include, or maybe what we want to focus on, that will help me further refine my RFP, right? But if you've got ideas now of things that you would like to see in there that you really want to address, then let me know, because.
Yeah, I mean, I think this list here is kind of light.
Okay.
Like, I think it's kind of superficial. I mean, I think we need to get farther down in the weeds on lot coverage, right?
Yep.
You know, when we did our post-construction stormwater ordinance, 3 years ago? You know, we tweaked it like just around the edges, right, to like barely cover what was required, and then like just a little bit more, and we said, okay, we'll get to the rest of that through lot coverage, or some other sort of, you know, trigger that gets to permeability and stormwater control on, you know, residential properties. Need to think about energy efficiency building standards, right? And like, how do we encourage that without preempting the state building code that refuses to change to incorporate energy efficiency building standards? So I don't know if that starts to look like, you know, a menu or, you know, of options or whatever, right? But,
Right.
I would just, I guess I would like to see us really like get into this a little deeper, right? If that's renewable ready, if that's, rooftop solar ready, whatever that is, right? So, I mean, there's a ton of stuff we could get into, but and we can do this through public engagement, and we can, you know, suss it out a little bit more, but I just want to make sure whoever we're going with has some depth in this area.
Can we tell you what we don't want?
Yeah.
So like accessory dwelling units, they're, again, I go back to California and do we allow those?
Not currently.
Okay. Has it come up at all?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it's come up.
Very much.
I mean, that provides, that gives you the options and the variety, but, you know, as I was thinking, ADUs are appropriate in some instances, they're very useful in a lot of instances, but then they also open up that door for short-term rentals, because now
Exactly. That's the whole point here.
But what I appreciate in an ADU is that the primary residence is there.
I get that.
That it's not it's, in my mind, it's not the same as, I mean, it is the same as a short-term rental, but at least the homeowner is part of, and living on that property, whereas some of the short-term rentals that we have our problems with, it's not a property owner on the property, and so the ADU brings that, I think it's one thing that we gotta consider and think about, and just not to go blindly down a path of whatever it is we want to have it, but when we start looking at a variety of housing types, we have to have that in our backdrop and consideration on how that might be perceived as a short-term rental or could be utilized.
So then it's only residential with an ADU, not a business with an ADU?
Correct.
Okay, just want to make sure, because that's going to pop up too, so, but anyway.
But that's
for another day.
No, that's, I think that's what the process is if, from a state requirement, we have to provide a variety of housing types.
That's what
We
I'm
have to look at what those are and develop a list and decide which ones are
Like
appropriate.
senior living, is that something that they're looking at? I just want to know.
I don't know, but that's what I'm saying is.
That's why I'm
we're-
going to our planners here.
I think that's part of the process. We have to develop that list of what those variety of housing types are, and then decide which ones then are what we want to include in our master plan, are appropriate to our master plan. I don't have all the answers, and I think that's part of the process, is to define what they are, and then go through the process of determining what is appropriate for the Village of Beverly Hills.
Looks like she wrote it down, so hopefully it's something we can look
Yeah.
into.
Yes, Brian?
I know short-term rentals is on the list, but I think we do need to dive into deeper, because I'd hate to just like outlaw them, because there are people who rent, say a portion of their house to somebody, and that's how they afford to stay in their house. So as we think through this, I think we have to be careful we don't just say no short-term rentals. I agree with the concept that Mr. Booth has, that, having these businesses come in and run them as like mini hotels is a bad idea. I I think there are people who are residents that actually depend upon some of their income and being able to afford to live here, using part of their property or an adjacent property or whatever as a short-term rental. So to Mr. Westerland's point, I think it's, if the person's a resident and next door or on site, I think it's a reasonable consideration. I also know that people have come to town and stayed in Royal Oak to help people who are in need shortly for medical issues or childcare, things like that. So I've seen that as well. So having somebody local is handy. I don't think we're going to have a big influx of Super Bowl parties or anything like that in Beverly Hills.
You'd be surprised.
No, I understand your experiences. That's what I'm saying. There's certain ways to make it work and certain ways that it shouldn't be deployed. Redlining the whole thing, I'm kind of against.
With looking at the auxiliary structure dwellings, would we then also look at the number of allowable I mean, obviously, if a garage counts as one and everybody already has a garage, right? And then, so I'm just wondering, would we be looking at maybe adjusting the number of auxiliary structures that are permissible under that, and maybe looking at a percentage of lot coverage as a trick, like, because if somebody turns their garage into a granny pod, right? And then, I think that it puts them in a situation then where they completely lose their garage. But also, we have 2-3 acre lots where,
Right. Well, so
that's, are we gonna be looking into some,
that's a good segue. Yay. So the other part of this RFP that I'm gonna be working on is, it's actually a combined RFP for master plan and zoning, right? Because they work together, right? Whoever rewrites the whole zoning ordinance in English, right, is going to need to be familiar with the master plan so that they can see those recommendations within the master plan and help us make the appropriate adjustments in the zoning ordinance. So, yes, I believe that would end up being one of those conversations, right? I mean, and look, garages are a thing at the Zoning Board of Appeals all the time. And so we have to look at the accessories anyways.
okay.
Like right now, an attached garage counts as one of your accessories.
Right.
What?
It does?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, even if you have something.
So if you have a shed and an attached garage, no, you can't have a larger garage or you can't put another secondary shed for whatever. You can't put an art studio out in your backyard because you already have 2 accessories. Find space inside, right? So we have to look at that anyways, but I see that whatever those recommendations that come out of the next master plan, whatever those are, they will be incorporated into the zoning ordinance, and that'll be part of that whole kit and caboodle, if you will.
If I may, and for planning commissioners who don't know me, it's nice to be here and meet you as the new-ish village manager, although it's coming up on a year.
Not new anymore.
I'm new to the planning commission at least. Again, if there's one takeaway tonight from this part of the meeting, it's we want to be very intentional with, we're not just conducting a master plan rewrite in isolation. We intend it to immediately be followed by an intense period of rewriting the zoning ordinance. We just did all this work to make a plan, to talk conceptually about what we want to see in our community. Well, how does that translate to the actual ordinance, the law that we enforce and everybody has to live with in order to accomplish the goals of that plan? So it's a relay race with 2 runners. The master plan has to run first, and then the zoning ordinance will carry it, get it over the finish line. And we're doing one RFP where we're going to kind of search for one consultant to help us with both. Practically speaking, though, it's probably going to be 2026 master plan, 2027 zoning ordinance, actually translating the plan into code. Now, because we're doing them together, which is a very unusual, but I think a good way of doing it, we might actually be able to write some of the zoning as we go too. And again, we're going to let the consultants pitch, their work plan and, figure out a budget for everything. But I'm really excited, excuse me, to kind of be doing both at once. And then, of course, as Susie mentioned and alluded to, in the meantime, though, we know there's those few things that you might still want to tweak in the zoning ordinance, like storage units or something that we're not going to push to 2027. We'll still seek to tackle that now, but any of this other more broad, like how does sustainability translate into stormwater regulations we can enforce? That's part of phase 2, which was the zoning ordinance rewrite.
Yes.
And one last thing, knowing that there's 3 council members not present tonight, perhaps they have some feedback to send to you based on what took place here today. I think that would be a prudent thing to do.
Well, hopefully they bring their ideas on Saturday and you guys can
Oh, well,
tell me
I
more on
forgot.
Saturday
Well,
too.
Saturday's more strategy. I don't think we're going to rehash all this stuff.
I hope not, but I'll be there for it too, right? So,
Okay, all right.
With coffee.
Mr. Johnston will be here as well?
yes, yep.
Finance?
Yeah, everybody,
Everybody, all right.
the whole gang.
So I have an item on streets.
Yeah,
You mentioned, it took me a while to get there, but
That's
you
all right.
mentioned adopt flexible street design.
Mm-hmm.
As I read the master plan, there was discussion about, on the major roadways, about street calming
Mm-hmm.
activity and things like that. Is that something that would fit on this list, or is it just kind of in the master plan that it's?
that would
how
fit in
is it
this
a-
list. Yeah, and I
Yeah,
would
'cause
even
like,
say.
For instance, I know council approved a plan to look at the Southfield Beverly
Mhm.
interchange. And then there's, I guess, from what I understand, activity on Southfield, south of 13 Mile. That's gonna, I had heard that there's gonna be some kind of activity that Southfield's gonna be working on.
Yes, yep.
Is that something that would come up in and review of this master plan, or how would we get that onto an agenda?
So there's a kind of, it's like 1A and B. So the traffic calming, the streetscaping, yes, that could be included right in here, right? Right under streets. Because that's part of what's intended here, right? How do we slow down our commercial thoroughfare? How do we make it more multimodal friendly, right? Like, I like to walk, my kids like to bike. And my dog would like to take me on a run everywhere, right? So how do we plan our streets for all of those users, right? So that would be an appropriate thing to be included in the master plan, and then develop those standards in the zoning ordinance as that second phase, right? And sometimes, that could be that could be like saying, you have to have a sidewalk, and you have to install a sidewalk in front of your property, right? If you don't already have one, you have to have one. It's probably not the world's greatest example, but, there's a way that we can get those traffic calming and pedestrian friendly elements into the ordinance. What Southfield is hoping to do, that is part of a larger, broader, Southfield
200
Road.
million
Yeah,
plus dream.
like a project that I've worked on for way too many years, but, right now, that's kind of like, it's a dream, right? It's a very, very, very expensive dream that has been in the works for,
Susie, you're talking about
20+
the
years. Yeah.
boulevard that's going to come
Yeah.
through all the way up to
Yeah.
Beverly Road?
yes.
Okay. And into the roundabout there?
We don't know about roundabouts.
It's
Yeah,
coming.
but there's the boulevard, yeah, it's the Southfield corridor preferred alternative, right? And it envisions a boulevard that extends from 13 Mile all the way down to 10.5 Mile, right? It's.
Currently not in the works to extend north into the village.
Yeah, and it never has. Like, that project has never extended north of 13 Mile. And the road commission has said, yeah, it's never going north of 13 Mile, but we'll figure out something different that we can do that works for Beverly Hills. So I wouldn't worry too much about what Southfield's doing right now in that particular regard.
So what is it that we would put on this list to address what goes on north of 13 Mile, what goes along on 14 Mile, on Greenfield, 13 Mile between Greenfield and west of Lasser, on the major roadways? How would we, where's our place?
So our
Put
place.
that on our list to discuss.
Well, so we know for, like, so Detroit Country Day, right? As we're looking at their sign, right, or their package, right, their whole site plan package, if we have standards within the ordinance about the roadway, they have a deceleration lane that's right there, right? So whatever ordinance standards we may develop, right, they would have to adhere to those standards for their portion of that lane, right? Maybe it ends up, maybe it's a pavement type, maybe it's you have to curb and gutter. Maybe there are native plantings that have, maybe instead of curb and gutter, you do swales with native plantings, and you have to have, a certain type of, a certain level of runoff. I mean, and that part of that plays into existing standards that we have for stormwater runoff, right? So, I mean, I don't want to be flippant and say sky's the limit, but a lot of that is to be determined, right? Maybe some roadways, maybe we say, we want one-way streets, all right? So what would a one-way street look like? What would we want a one-way street? Or,
I think it's safe to say that the master plan will have a section dedicated to transportation, to street design, to things like this, and as we get into the master plan process, you'll be able to actually talk and develop
Yeah.
what you want to see. But that won't be a forgotten piece of the master plan. It'll be, quite frankly, a front and center component of it, because it's not just about land use, it's about transit, it's about sustainability. So I would just say it'll be tackled during the drafting process of the plan.
And let me just add to that, because I think, Tracy, as you're looking at this list and why, we haven't really checked off any things, I think one of the important things to recognize, and we need to have people at the table, is from engineering.
Yeah.
Because a lot of time, I'm going to go back 30 years ago doing projects, and we would be very creative on solutions, but we would hit a roadblock when we went up against engineering, because it's not our standard. So we need to accept the fact that in order to have a successful master plan dealing with sustainability, roadways, streetscapes, we need to have our engineering consultant on board and part of the meetings to look at that creative aspect, to guide and help develop on how this master plan could be. Because otherwise, you're going to run into the old standard of, this is the way we've always done it, this is the guidelines, this is the state of Michigan, and we gotta, if we really want to enhance and create these ideals, we have to go outside the box.
well,
So
and
it's
they can help,
important.
to that point too, and they can help rein in some of the ideas that sound like permeable pavement. Sounds awesome. We have clay. Right? Like, you can't do permeable pavement, you have clay, like, it doesn't go anywhere. So it's a great idea, it sounds awesome, I want permeable pavement.
But, yeah.
But it's not gonna do anything.
There's some.
Right.
But no, and then that's some of the stuff too, is, we got to think about the reality of, maintenance of permeable pavements.
Right.
Right? There isn't, it's a great thing to throw out there and think about, but there's a lot of other things that go into it. Even from, sustainability in buildings. There are, the energy codes have been changing or constantly updating, and I got to get myself more familiar with what the currents are. But there are codes that say you need to be PV ready on roofs, and it's certain size buildings. So there are things that are already in the works at a level. I was just having conversations with my mechanical engineers about new items coming down the pike from a building standard standpoint of reducing greenhouse gases and energy efficiency and things. So, but to have it as holistic as a community is a great thing that we need to strive for.
Perfect. Well, that's all I have for this joint meeting session, unless you all have other things
Well, I was
that you
going
want to
to
keep
turn to
chatting
my
about.
fellow commissioners who, I know Andrew's been chiming in, Charlie and Ashley, any comments? Jared?
Do that. Thanks,
Council? Any other parting words?
I do not. Thank you, Mr. West.
Thanks for all the work you do, you're underpaid. Appreciate it. I'm gonna put in for 2 times pay again, I tried to do that last year, didn't get approved.
Oh, I thought we got it 2 times. 2 times 0, we still got it.
Oh, I think you were successful.
Was I? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, clearly.
All right, moving,
You get paid for this meeting?
No.
And smile.
2 times paid.
so thank you, council, for joining us at our regular meeting instead of having a joint meeting. So I appreciate that. Moving on to item number 8, public comments. I see no one in the public here. Have any liaison comments? Ryan, you're all good? Thank you. Staff comments, Susie?
I do have one more thing.
Oh, of course.
And it was Andy's segue this time, you guys. Yay. All right, so the intersection study, right? We have been meeting with the engineers and we have been talking with them. And they have put together a survey, a real survey. It's like all the things that the first survey wasn't, right? And that is going to be released by the end of the week. So I'll send that out to you guys. Please share it with the masses of Beverly Hills. And let's get some feedback on how people view that intersection.
You're going to get a lot of feedback.
Good. I hope we do, right?
Using
So,
SurveyMonkey, and it will track IP addresses.
yep, it'll do all the things that, see, we learned some lessons, right? So, but that is all I have.
Okay. Commissioner comments, Charlie?
I'm good.
Ashley?
Just a brief comment. I think it's fantastic, the new sidewalks. I'm a huge fan of them, that the village moved forward. But it appears that a lot of homeowners don't want to shovel their sidewalks or clear their paths and have just piles of ice and snow. And it doesn't seem like maybe warnings are going out or anything's really being done about it with ordinance. So I'm just, my general comment for the village. It would be great if something could be done so there's maybe a little more enforcement or incentive for people to clear their pathways. So it's safe to walk on so we can use the sidewalks during the winter.
The responsibility to clear the sidewalks.
Yes.
Noted.
Andrew?
Nothing else.
Jared?
Nothing yet. Thank you.
I was just going to add to your comment. I forgot what I was going to say. What were you talking about? What was
I mean, I've talked about a lot of things.
the survey? Oh, yeah. As we move forward I think the biggest thing is trying to find a way to get public input as we move forward with the master plan. And, the traditional way of writing it in the paper or, putting it on the website doesn't seem to work. So I don't know, maybe we need to think about being creative about getting public interest about the future, the long-term vision of the community in which they live in. That's all I have.
North of 14 Mile, I've seen people with, yard signs that say, send in your input, so maybe
Yeah,
it's
like a
a
QR
marketing kind
code
of
to
thing.
survey.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna reach out to the schools too.
We need to think about
I
that.
like getting the kids involved.
Correspondence, I see that there was a City of Southfield notice of the master plan edition.
Yeah, and then they're
Option.
promptly amending it to include their sustainability chapter, which we are also going to be researching, so.
There's zero food waste. But,
Yeah, I've talked to that. I've talked to Susanna over there too. I think it's super awesome, so.
All right, I will look for a motion to adjourn.
What about it? I'm sorry, we had the first.
I'll make a motion to adjourn, Mr. Chair.
Second?
Second.
Second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Meeting adjourned. Thank you.